we being New South, we have a geophysical department there. This is one of their toys. Went out in the fall and did a ground penetrating radar survey of an area about like this. And this is the Civil War earthwork, and just as a way of orienting you, this is where the slough is, and this is where the top of the creek is. So the geophys analyst that works with me at New South, she looked at the data that we had, and she identified 8 anomalies. Anomalies is code for feature in geophys speak. They say, we don't know exactly what it is, but we think there's something there. And her interpretation is that there's a structure right here, that there's a ditch right here, and then there are what she calls surfaces right here and here. And then this is also some kind of structural element. Down here, this is labeled as stratigraphy, and I apologize that it's not big enough for y'all to see that, but stratigraphy basically means that the flood deposits that have kind of laid over the site have created their own signals here. So if you bring those into focus with the features that have already been identified, the structure that we exposed in 2010 is lining up almost perfectly with this larger building right here. So, we've got a building foundation. More than likely, it's connecting with something that Jim Mickey found in the 1980s. And we also have, maybe a turn in the ditch. We've done excavations up this way, and we can't find any more evidence for the ditch up here. So it's quite possible that that square outline that Jim thought that the fort should have needs a little bit of adjustment. And we really won't know until we do some more excavations out there. So just as a final bit of information, this is the artifact category architecture that we saw on that previous slide. And this is plotted with relative densities, kind of showing where the hot spots are in the data set. So anywhere that you're seeing these yellow points or these darker red areas, we have a lot more architectural material that's showing up there. And it's tending to appear in areas that are also associated with these GPR features, or areas where we think maybe the ditch should also continue. So bringing all that back into focus, this is my attempt at a sketch of what Fort Congaree would look like. So if we have the storehouse right there, it's in this furthest away from the gate corner of the enclosure. There is a good overlook here to get to the river, and I think that means that there should be some kind of a postern gate that would allow you to load or unload the paragos and also get out of Dodge if you had to. The enclosure has its main gate on the west side, which is right here. This is where we found all of the artifacts in the really rich ditch deposit. We know from that record that the trading house should be outside of the enclosure. We don't have an exact location for it. We don't have a very good location for it, but it's probably going to be somewhere close to where this main gate is. And then there should be some campsites that are around it. And like I pointed out, there was that one excavation unit that had a lot of Native American material in it. that is kind of suggestive of that being a campsite, but we would once again have to do more work to kind of verify that. Pack horses were also a big part of the Indian trade, so there's going to be a corral or some kind of pen for those animals, and also for the mounts that the rangers are using to go between Fort Moore and Fort Congaree. So, yeah, so with that, you guys got any questions?
Did you find the latrine?
Did I find the latrine? No. Maybe they're using the ditch where they put everything else.
Did you guys find paleo or Clovis points or anything?
I haven't found any anything that early out there.
Did Mickey?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
There's a site near there, but it's kind of inland from the river.
Oh, okay.
Sue?
Yeah, in your sketch that you had a storehouse on the right and horses on the left. What was the big building in the middle?
Oh, yeah, so that one is something that I think should be there, and I haven't found it yet. But, all right, so the thing is that this outpost needs to have a good line of sight. It needs to be able to actually see where potential threats are coming from, and also what's happening on the river. And I think that means that there should be some kind of a blockhouse there. That would give them the best vantage point to see out on the landscape. The alternative is that the fort would have buildings constructed along the inside of the palisade. Sorry, I can see my mouse, but I can't see. You see?
Can you tell me what the approximate dimensions of the fort would have been?
About 150 foot square. And that is based off of measuring the distance from this ditch to that ditch. So, right. You see?
Okay, James, two questions. You were mentioning earlier that the trade networks from Charleston went all the way into Alabama.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Alabama, so about how far to go to what native groups did that trade actually get to? The second question is, especially based on your illustration up here, has the Congaree River channel changed over the years, and it was at one time a lot closer to where number one is at, it was located at?
Yeah, so there has been a lot of sediment accumulating right at Congaree Creek. So the river, I think where it's at today, I think if you moved it into where Fort Congaree is, I think that's perfectly reasonable. If you look at the landscape down there, there's that channel right there at the fort.
Right. Yeah.
And the kind of bigger picture topography of the area, you can see that the fort is built like right on the edge of the natural levee for the floodplain. So I think we know how active these floodplains can be, but this is at least kind of like going to be the limit of where that back channel is going to be. And this swing in the creek is really weird, geologically speaking. It's kind of kind of defies the idea that the water is trying to find the easiest way to the ocean, because it goes another mile downstream. And one of those additional projects I would like to do is actually get a geomorphologist out and do some optically stimulated luminescence dating on those the alluvial deposits that are out there, and see what they actually date to. We can get that data, but we have to go out there with a backhoe and collect the samples. Yeah.
I know that in the late 1730s there were two Irish-born brothers who were traders at the fort.
The Browns.
Yeah. Have y'all been able to identify the nationalities of other traders?
Well, let's see, the main trader that was there while the Fort Congaree was active was, his name was Russell. His last name was Russell. And my assumption is that he's English, but I don't know that. The indentured servants that were up there were certainly Scottish, but there should be also some Africans that are there.
How many indentured servants were there?
The entire group that's working out of Fort Congaree, we're talking about 10 or so. And the rangers that are kind of moving between Fort Moore and Fort Congaree, they might temporarily bring in, another 20 or 25 guys.
So it meant up to 30.
Yeah. Yes.
I guess from you guys' estimate in 2010, there was no, I guess absolutely no brickwork or any kind of stonework whatsoever there. It was all wood.
Yeah, so
Palisade walls and everything else.
yeah, so there's
Is that right?
so we have a lot of architectural debris that includes nails and includes the brick. The thing that we're still trying to puzzle out is
Structure.
whether that brick is from this occupation or if it's from that later Saxe-Gotha occupation. So, one of those things that is just kind of a rule is that if you find a hole in the ground, you can fill it up with trash. And, are these bricks showing up just, somebody carting off stuff and dropping it in a convenient hole? Or was it actually intended to, was it there and in a primary deposit that somebody at Fort Congaree used that material to build one of these buildings? There's one slight reference that says, small reference that says, after, from this point forward, anything you build at these forts needs to be constructed with brick or stone. But brick being what it is, it's very difficult to date to a very kind of precise window. So,
You missed my first question.
yeah, I was coming back to it.
Okay.
So I was gonna do the headache thing. Bunch of flashing lights. There we go. All right, so these traders are actually going out as far out as the Mississippi. Mobile's right here. What it seems like the general pattern is, though, is that they're kind of just sticking to the coastal plain. And the Choctaw and the Chickasaw are known trading partners for this period. And I think that there are traders that are going out there, but there are also documents that say that the Choctaw set up one of those little villages right there near Fort Moore, and the Chickasaw have a little occupation there too. So they're kind of controlling their own trade. Yes.
How many people would have been permanently stationed at the fort, if I could use it permanent?
Yeah, so there's the people that are on the books, and then there's the people that aren't on the books, and they're the ones that are probably not easy to count. But I think if you're looking at 15 or so people, that's pretty close to max for that occupation. The question is like, is that fort like the limit of their activity, or are they just using the fort as a strong point and having their houses built, outside of that area? You're going to need to grow your own corn and have your vegetables. That's obviously got to be outside of that small area. But are these guys living with wives that are not showing up in the record? And, are there other folks that are coming up from Charleston that aren't supposed to be there, or are there, you know, Native Americans that are, you know, setting up their own more permanent lodgings right there, kind of catering to the temporary folks that are coming through. Andy?
So typically, in the time period we're talking about, there wouldn't have been like a barracks or something like that.
Well, you know, that blockhouse, if it exists, that would have served as some kind of a barracks. But, you know, even in those kind of more communal settings, there are usually some women that handle doing, you know, the washing and the food preparation. And for most of history, they don't really get recorded unless they get blamed for something. So.
All the artifacts you found, where do they reside?
They are at the Institute of Archaeology and Anthropology over on USC's campus. So they're part of their curated collection. They're in the process of moving it to a new facility, but part of the goal of doing excavations like this is collecting the artifacts, taking a lot of notes, and then having a collection that somebody else doesn't have to go out and excavate. So, you know, somebody else can come along, do some analysis on that collection, and you know, come up with some other interesting interpretations.
I'm good.
As a child, my grandfather and my father would take me all over that property, and my father and my grandfather searched for Congaree Fort for decades.
Yeah.
My grandfather thought it might be their old deer camp, which is, he was right, it was there. But also my grandfather, or my great-grandfather, was with a Mrs. Cayce, who took them all once to where the boat landing is now and pointed in the direction. So we knew it was south of that. We knew it was east of the road. We knew it was west of the river. So
Yeah.
we pretty much know it. As a kid, and I was there several years ago, I worked for the city of Cayce. There's this depressed path that runs parallel to the river nearby, and we were always told that that was the Cherokee Trail. Is that been confirmed? And that's the first part. But the fields, they're not fields anymore, but between Congaree Fort and the Kodak plant, along the river, when I was a kid, this is how old I am, they're tall trees there now, they were plowed fields. And we were told, we don't know scientifically, just folklore, was that one of these large fields that the Indians would come annually or semi-annually from all over and meet there.
Yeah.
And that some of the things we found there aren't from South Carolina. I mean, there's splint from Tennessee. I've seen a piece of turquoise that was found there. Do you know anything about a large, like an annual or planned meeting
Well,
of different tribes?
Congaree's lived in that area.
the Congarees lived there historically. There's also a kind of a very long tradition of kind of seasonal movement in Native American culture, and in the earliest archaic period, the Clovis period, these people are not permanently living anywhere, and the idea that most archaeologists have come around to is that for most of the pre-contact period, they're kind of I'll just say this for South Carolina. They're starting in the spring down on the coast when things are coming into season earliest, and then they're working their way inland so that they're kind of timing that migration to the availability of nuts, hickory nuts, chestnuts, and the like. And right here at Columbia, we're at kind of the linchpin in the seasonal round, is what it's called. And you've got this big topographical feature is called the fall line
Mm-hmm.
that runs like this. And we think that the fall line on pretty much all of the major rivers is significant for those annual gatherings. That multiple clan groups will get together and have their events, probably arrange kind of different marriage alliances between the clans and aggregate for, call it the harvest, and continue to move inland a little bit later, but usually by the coldest parts of the year, they're back to this area to kind of weather the harsh part of the climate.
Well, everything my dad thought he knew is now outdated and wrong. So all the artifacts we have, we don't know the age of them. I mean, it's completely, some of the books that we read and some of the books written in the 50s and 60s are just so wrong.
Yeah.
So much more information has been found. So.
Well, we try and build off of what other people have already kind of observed.
Well, this museum's about to inherit a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm getting old. Yeah.
Well, I will say this: the area that you were describing, I've not seen too many areas that have had that amount of material on them. I mean, there is an incredible amount of projectile points and other stone tools that have been collected through the years. Between there and like Amazon, that whole area is just.
Well, my ancestors are related to the Taylors, so we have stuff off the Taylor site and off the Timerton site, but mostly that field, those large fields that were south of the fort. I mean, I've been there when I was 10 years old, like 55 years ago. The pottery shards were like gravel.
Yeah.
It was just we didn't even pick up the pottery. It was. Pick it up, look at it, drop it back down. It's like
Yeah. Well, the reason that Fort Congaree was placed where it was probably the same reasons the pre-contact folks were attracted to it as well. So
it sort of was the intersection of the river and the Cherokee Trail.
Yeah. And that's the sort of a broad strokes version of the path right there. So I pulled that one up.
One real quick question. On your GPR slide, where's the sidewalk?
The sidewalk.
That was my question, so I'm trying to orient this against like old state.
All right, so the sidewalk is, now I can see my cursor on the screen, but I can't, I'm assuming y'all can, but it's not showing up. The sidewalk's about here.
Oh, okay. Just above the top.
Yeah. This is the ditch for the Civil War earthwork. So, if you're looking for a landmark, this is the easiest one to see. And then back to that GPR. So, yeah, all of this GPR work was done south of the sidewalk. So, not like that.
Thank you.
So, folks, I'm sure James will stick around if you've got some more individual questions for him, but let's give him a round. We wish you a good evening, and we wish that you'd come by and visit us sometime at the Cayce Museum, and thank everybody for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And if I could just make one plug, the Archaeology Society is starting up the Midlands chapter. We're going to be meeting here on July 30th at 10 a.m. for our inaugural meeting. And anybody that's interested in coming out, I encourage y'all to participate. It'll be fun.